It began as a simple mission, until I found the Queen's daughter. Lieutenant Elias Kane dropped from a night sky like a silent shadow. His drop pod sliced through thick clouds and hit the jungle floor with a soft thud. The high gravity of Keltaravi pressed hard on his shoulders, but he had trained for worse. He checked his suit seals, then stepped out into wet green darkness. Bioluminescent vines glowed soft blue around him. They twisted up giant trees that blocked most of the starlight. Elias moved slow and careful. His boots sank into moss that smelled like wet iron and old flowers. The air felt thick and alive with insect buzz and distant roars. He carried only what he needed, a monomolecular machete on his hip, a compact rail rifle slung across his back, a small beacon drone in his pack. The mission orders were clear: plant the survey beacon inside the ancient ruin, then get out before anyone noticed. Coalition Command called it a simple topographic survey. Everyone knew the truth. The ruin held old tech from before the big collapse. If Elias found anything worth taking, the miners would follow fast. This was deep in contested space. Keltaran patrols flew overhead. Sometimes Merc ships lurked in the outer orbits. Elias did not care about politics. He cared about finishing the job and going home. He followed the nav marker on his helmet display. The path climbed a low ridge, then dropped into a narrow valley. Thick fog rolled along the ground. It hid roots and holes that could break an ankle. Elias used his grav chute to float over the worst spots. The chute hummed low so no one would hear it from far away. Halfway down the valley, he met the first predator. A six-legged thing with black scales and glowing red eyes stepped out from behind a tree. It hissed and showed teeth like curved knives. Elias did not run. He stood still and let the creature smell him. The thing circled slow, then lunged. Elias sidestepped and brought the machete down in one clean arc. The blade passed through scales and bone without resistance. The predator dropped, twitching. Elias wiped green blood from the edge and kept walking. The ruin appeared at the end of the valley. A massive ziggurat, half buried in vines and dirt. Black stone walls rose smooth and perfect. Even after thousands of years, Elias scanned for traps. Nothing moved. No energy signatures, no guards. He found the main entrance, a wide rectangular opening that looked carved by machines, not hands. Inside, the air turned cool and dry. Echoes bounced off high ceilings. He moved deeper down long empty halls. Light came from thin slits in the walls that glowed faint orange. Elias placed motion sensors behind him just in case someone else might follow. He reached the central chamber, a round room with a raised platform in the middle, perfect spot for the beacon. He knelt and unpacked the drone's small lights blinked green as it powered up. He set the transmit code, then stood back. The device rose slow and locked onto the orbital relay. Done. That was when the ground shook hard. Elias grabbed the wall as dust rained from above. Explosions boomed outside, not close but not far. Seismic charges. Someone else wanted the ruin. Two alarms screamed in his helmet. Coalition channels lit up with urgent voices. Keltaran hive troops were attacking from the north. Unknown mercs dropped from the east. Crossfire pinned his extraction point. Elias cursed under his breath. He could not reach the landing zone now. Too much fire, too many bodies between him and the sky. He needed cover. He needed time. He turned and ran deeper into the ruin. The shaking grew worse. Cracks spread across the floor. Stones fell from the ceiling. He ducked under a falling slab and kept going. A side passage opened on his left, narrow and dark. He took it. The tunnel sloped down fast. Elias used the grav chute to control his slide. At the bottom, he found a sealed door, heavy alloy with strange carvings. No handle, no lock panel, just a smooth circle in the center. He pressed his palm against it. Nothing happened. He tried again. The circle glowed soft purple. Then the door slid open with a low hiss. Inside was a small vault, clean and untouched by time. No dust, no cracks. A single Stasis pod stood in the middle. Raised on a low dais, ornate patterns covered the surface. Gold and silver lines twisted like living vines. Elias stepped closer. The pod hummed soft. A faint blue light pulsed inside. He wiped fog from a viewing panel and looked in. A young Keltaran female lay curled in the pod. Her carapace shone deep. Emerald royal markings ran along her arms and neck. Thin gold threads wove through her mandibles. She looked barely out of adolescence. Her eyes were closed, but her chest rose and fell slow. The pod's emergency release had triggered. The lid hissed open. Steam curled into the air. Elias froze. He knew those markings from every intel briefing. This was no ordinary noble. This was royalty blood of the current queen Srathkea Laressa. If she died here, the Keltarans would burn human worlds to ash. He lowered his rail rifle, slow and careful, no sudden moves. The princess stirred. Her eyes opened wide and bright green. She saw him and froze. Terror flashed across her face. Elias raised empty hands. He tried the basic xenolinguistic pack in his helmet. Soft harmonic tones came out, mangled but clear. Not here to hurt you, he said. Simple mission, found you by accident. She stared at him. Her mandibles clicked fast. Fear mixed with confusion. She sat up slow. The pod lights dimmed around her. Elias stayed still. He knew one wrong move could end everything. Outside, the explosions grew louder. The ruin groaned as more sections collapsed. Dust poured through cracks in the ceiling. Elias glanced back at the tunnel. He could not stay here long. The princess watched him. She did not speak yet, but her eyes tracked every move he made. He pointed to the open door, then to himself. We go now, he said. Danger coming. She hesitated, then she stood on shaky legs. Her royal carapace glittered even in the dim light. Elias stepped aside to let her pass. She moved past him, slow and wary. Her antennae twitched, picking up his scent. He followed close behind, keeping his rifle pointed at the floor. The tunnel back to the main halls looked worse. Now rocks blocked half the path. Elias used the machete to clear small stones. The princess watched him work. She said nothing, but her mandibles stayed calm. Now less fear, more curiosity. They reached a wider corridor. The ground shook again. A loud crack split the wall ahead. Elias grabbed the princess and pulled her behind a pillar. Chunks of stone crashed down where they had stood. He looked at her. Are you hurt? She shook her head slow. No words yet, but understanding showed in her eyes. Elias let go and checked the way forward. The ruin was falling apart fast. They had minutes, maybe less. He looked at the young royal beside him and made his choice. Come on, he said, we find another way out. She nodded once, then she followed him into the dark. The princess named Srathkae Vera stepped out of the Stacy's pod on unsteady legs. Her emerald carapace caught the faint blue light and shimmered like wet leaves after rain. She looked small in the big vault, smaller than Elias expected from the stories about Kelteran royals. Her antennae twitched fast, searching the air for familiar scents. Instead, she found only the sharp metallic smell of his armor and the dust from falling stones. Vera saw the human standing there, tall and broad in battered grey, plating his face hidden behind a cracked visor that reflected her own frightened eyes. She froze. Mandibles clicked together in quick sharp bursts. The sound echoed off the walls like tiny breaking bones. She had heard tales since the egg chamber. The hairless reavers from the void. They came in ships of iron. They burned hives. They took queens as trophies. This one held a long black weapon pointed right at her chest. Elias saw the fear hit her like a wave. He lowered the rail rifle slow, very slow. The barrel dropped until it pointed at the floor. He raised his other hand, palm out, empty, no threat. He activated the helmet speaker, the xenolinguistic pacumt, and tried to shape words in harmonic tones. It came out rough like a child learning to sing. I am not here to hurt you, he said. Simple mission. I plant beacon, I leave, then ruin falls, I find you, that is all. Vera stared. She did not move. Her primary mandibles stayed half open, ready to scream or bite. She had never seen a human this close. They looked soft, no hard shell, no natural weapons, only tools made from dead metal. Yet this one stood calm while the world shook around them. She reached up slow. One delicate claw touched the gold thread woven into her own mandible. It held a tiny beacon, a royal distress signal. She pressed it hard. A high thin note cut through the air, too high for Elias to hear, but the Kelterans would feel it in their bones. Help coming, she thought. Mother's guard will come. They will tear this reaver apart. They will take me home. Elias heard nothing, but he saw her claw move. He understood the gesture. Royalty always carried emergency signals. He tensed but did not raise the rifle again. Time stretched. The ground trembled again. Dust fell in curtains from the ceiling. Cracks raced across the stone like lightning. Then the vault door buckled inward. Metal screamed as something huge pushed from the other side. Elias stepped in front of Vera. Without thinking, his body blocked her from the opening. He lifted the rail rifle but kept the muzzle down. Not yet, not unless they fired first. The door gave way with a final groan. Kelteran warriors poured in, 6 of them, big soldiers, carapaces scarred from old battles. Bioplasma rifles glowed green in their claws. They saw the princess. First relief flashed across their faces. Then they saw Elias' weapons snapped up. A wall of charged barrels pointed at his chest. Vera stepped forward fast. She put one small hand on the nearest soldier's arm. Stop, she said in clear harmonic tones. He has not harmed me. The commander lowered his rifle a fraction. His mandibles clicked in question. Princess, you are safe. This reaver holds you captive. No, Vera answered. He found me when the pod opened. He speaks little, but he has made no move to hurt. He lowered his weapon when I woke. The soldiers looked at each other. Confusion rippled through the group. They had orders: never harm royalty, never risk the bloodline, even if it meant letting an enemy live in the same room. The commander made a low rumble in his throat. Acceptance, but not trust. He gestured with one claw. You will come with us, princess. We take you to the surface. The extraction point waits. Vera nodded. Then she looked at Elias. The human still stood with hands raised, rifle slung loose across his back. He met her eyes through the visor. She saw no anger there, only tired focus, like a worker who kept going long after the shift should end. He comes too, she said. The commander's mandibles snapped shut. No human stays here. Coalition will claim him as prisoner or corpse. We do not take reavers aboard our ships. Elias understood enough from the tones and gestures. He spoke slow. Let me help you. Need to leave fast. Ruin collapses more every minute. I know paths down here, old tunnels. Maybe safe way out. The commander stared at him long moments. Then another explosion rocked the vault ceiling. A stone block fell and shattered near Vera's feet. She flinched. Elias moved without asking. He grabbed her arm, gentle but firm, and pulled her clear. The soldiers raised weapons again, but the commander barked a sharp command: hold. Dust settled. Vera looked up at Elias. He had not let go until she stood safe. Then he released her arm slow. He stepped back again, hands open. The commander clicked mandibles in reluctant agreement. The reaver speaks truth. The upper levels fall. We cannot fly out with mercs overhead. The old service tunnels may still hold. He turned to Elias. You lead, human. If you lead us, false, you die first. Elias nodded once. Fair enough. Vera watched the exchange. She felt strange things she learned in the royal creche did not match what stood before her. This human did not grab her, did not threaten, did not demand surrender. He offered help when no one asked him to do it. They moved out. The soldiers formed a tight circle around Vera. Elias walked at the front with the commander beside him. The tunnel stretched. Dark and narrow light came from the glow strips on Kelteran armor and the faint orange slits in the walls. Elias used his helmet lamp to pick the path. He checked corners, touched walls for cracks, listened for falling stone. Behind him, Vera walked close to the soldiers, but her eyes stayed on the human. He moved sure, even in the heavy gravity that made her legs ache already. He never slowed, never complained. When a low roof forced them to crouch, he went first and warned the others with shorthand signals. They reached a fork. Elias stopped. He pulled a small scanner from his belt. The screen glowed green. He studied it, then pointed left. That way, he said. Old map shows service shaft leads down, then out toward East Ridge. Less collapse there. The commander hesitated. He sent one soldier ahead to scout. The scout returned fast. Path clear, no traps, no recent movement. They went left. The tunnel sloped steeper. Elias used his grav chute to ease the drop. The Kelterans followed, using their own vibration sense to feel safe footing. Vera slipped once on loose gravel. Elias caught her elbow again. Steady, he said. Simple word, but it carried through the helmet speaker clear. She looked at him, surprised. Thank you, she answered. The word came out in harmonic, but the translator caught it and echoed it back in rough human speech. Elias gave a small nod. No problem. They kept moving. The air grew thicker. Dust stung their eyes. Explosions still rumbled far above like angry thunder. The soldiers talked low in clicks and tones. Vera listened. She heard their doubt. The human would betray them. He would lead them into ambush. He would sell their location to coalition ships. Yet he walked ahead, taking the first risk every time. Another tremor hit. The tunnel shook hard. A crack opened in the ceiling. Stone rained down. Elias shouted down and threw himself over Vera. His armor took the hits. Plates dented, but held. She felt his weight press her to the floor, not crushing, protecting. The stones stopped falling. Silence returned, except for coughing and shifting carapaces. Elias pushed up slow. He checked her. First, you hurt? No, she said. You? Fine, he answered. Pathetic lie. Blood leaked from a cut on his arm. He ignored it. The commander watched the human stand again, covered in dust, bleeding but upright. Something shifted in the Kelteran's eyes. Not trust yet, but less hate. Vera rose beside Elias. She looked at the blood on his armor, then at his face through the visor. Why, she asked. Why do you help us? Elias shrugged. Simple mission went bad. Found princess. Need to keep princess alive. Coalition says if princess dies we all burn, so I keep you breathing. That is job now. She studied him long moments. Job. She repeated the word. Felt strange. A human word for duty. Yet it matched something deep in her own blood, something queens taught their daughters long ago. They moved on. The tunnel grew colder. The glow strips dimmed. Elias kept walking, one foot after another. A lone human in a place no human should be, with enemies who might kill him any second, and a young princess who started to wonder if the old stories about Reavers were wrong after all. The group pushed deeper into the service tunnels. The air turned cold and heavy with the smell of wet stone and old metal. Elias led the way. His helmet lamp cut thin beams through the dark. He moved steady, even when the gravity pulled at every muscle. The Kelterans followed in tight formation. Their bioplasma rifles stayed ready, but pointed low. Vera walked near the middle, surrounded by soldiers. A small frame looked fragile next to the big warriors, yet she kept pace, without complaint. The tunnel narrowed. They had to crawl through tight sections. Elias went first. He used the monomolecular machete to slice away roots that grew through cracks. The blade whispered through tough fibers without effort. Behind him, the soldiers passed tools forward. When needed, Vera watched the human work. His hands moved fast, and sure, no wasted motion, no grumbling. Even when sweat ran down inside his suit, he never slowed. An hour passed, maybe more. Time felt strange down here. No sun, no stars, only the hum of armor and the soft clicks of Kelteran mandibles. Elias stopped at a wide crack in the floor. He knelt and scanned at the drop. Looked deep black, nothing below. He tied a thin line from his pack to a strong outcrop. Then he tested the weight it held. He looked back at the group. We drop one at a time, he said. I go first, then princess. Then rest of you. The commander clicked agreement, but his eyes stayed hard on Elias. The human tied the line around his waist and stepped over the edge. He lowered himself slow, using the grav chute to control speed. The chute whined soft in the quiet. When his boots touched bottom, he signaled up clear. Vera went next. She tied the line careful around her slender waist. Elias waited below, arms ready. She slid down smooth. Her feet touched ground beside him. She looked up at the soldiers, then at Elias. He gave a small nod. Good job. The soldiers followed fast. They moved like one body. Each one landed light and silent. When the last warrior touched down, Elias cut the line and coiled it quick. No trace left behind. They kept going. The tunnel opened into a larger passage. Old rails ran along the floor. Rusted tracks from some machine long dead. Elias checked his scanner. The path sloped up toward the surface. Good. They needed to reach open air soon. The ruin above still shook with distant blasts. Merc ships kept pounding the upper levels. Vera walked closer to Elias. Now the soldiers led her. She matched his steps. Her antennae brushed near his helmet. Once tasting the air around him, she spoke soft. The translator in his suit caught most of it. You move like you belong here, she said. This gravity crushes most outsiders, yet you walk as if it means nothing. Elias shrugged. Gravity is gravity, he answered. Train hard enough, anything becomes normal. You Kelterans handle it better than most. I just keep putting one foot in front of the other. She clicked mandibles in what might have been amusement. You never rest. Rest when job is done, he said. Right now job is get you out alive. They rounded a bend. The passage widened into a chamber big enough for 20 people. Stone benches lined the walls. Faint carvings showed strange machines and wing shapes. Elias swept his lamp across the mold. Empire stuff. He thought the builders who came before Kelterans claimed this world. The commander called a short halt. The soldiers checked weapons and shared nutrient paste from small tubes. Vera sat on a bench. Elias stayed standing. He scanned the exits, listened for trouble. A low rumble started, not from above, from ahead. The ground vibrated, soft at first, then harder. Dust fell from the ceiling. Elias tensed. What is that? The commander tilted his head. Vibration sense kicking in. Collapse ahead. Big one coming fast. Elias looked at the tunnel. Forward, no side paths, no way around. We run back or we push through. Back means trapped, he added. Mercs will seal the upper entrances soon. The commander clicked sharp. We push. Human, you lead. If it falls, you die with us. Elias nodded. Fair. They ran. The rumble grew to a roar. Stones cracked and shifted. Elias sprinted ahead. He used the machete to hack at falling debris. Vera stayed close behind him. The soldiers covered the rear. Their plasma rifles lit green flashes when loose rocks threatened to block the way. A section of ceiling gave way. Elias shoved Vera forward hard. She stumbled but stayed on her feet. He turned back just as a huge slab dropped toward her. He threw himself between her and the stone. The impact slammed him to the ground. Armor cracked. Loud pain shot through his shoulder and side. He grunted but pushed up. The slab rolled off him and crashed to the side. Vera spun around. She saw him on one knee. Blood leaked from a tear in his suit, plating red against grey. She reached out. One claw touched the wound. Why? She asked. Why take the hit? Elias stood slow. He pressed a hand to the cut. Emergency foam hissed out and sealed it. He looked at her through the cracked visor. You look scared, he said. We do not leave kids behind. Simple as that. Vera stared. Mandibles opened, then closed. No words came. The soldiers watched in silence. The commander stepped forward. He examined the wound. Then he looked at Elias. Long moments. Respect flickered in his compound eyes. Move, he said. We lose time. They pushed on. Elias limped now, but he kept the lead. The pain burned hot, yet he ignored it. Focus on the next step. Focus on the princess. Focus on the exit. The tunnel climbed steeper. Air grew fresher. A faint breeze carried the smell of jungle. They reached. A metal grate set in the ceiling. Elias climbed a short ladder and pushed it. Gave way with a groan. Sunlight poured in bright and green. They had made it to the surface. The group climbed out one by one. They stood in a small clearing surrounded by thick vines and glowing flowers. The ruin loomed behind them, cracked and smoking. Far above, Merc shuttles circled like angry insects. Kelteran dropships waited on the far ridge, but the path looked blocked by fresh craters. Elias scanned the Sky Coalition channels, stayed silent. His own people thought him dead or captured. He looked at Vera. She stood tall now, no fear left in her eyes, only something new, curiosity mixed with something deeper. The commander turned to Elias. You kept your word, human. The princess lives. We owe you passage to our lines. Elias shook his head. Not yet. Mercs still hunt. We get her to safety first, then I go my way. Vera stepped closer. You bleed for us, she said. You owe us nothing, yet you stay. Elias met her gaze. Job is not finished, he answered. Until you are safe, it is not done. The commander clicked approval, then he gestured east. Hidden path. Their old game trail leads to extraction. No Mercs know it yet. They moved again. Elias at the front, Vera beside him, now not behind. The soldiers formed a protective ring. The jungle swallowed them whole. The high gravity pressed down. The wounds ached. The danger waited ahead, yet Elias kept walking. 1 foot after another. A lone human in alien green, carrying a debt he never asked for and starting to feel like it might be worth every drop of blood. The jungle thickened around them. Vines hung low like green curtains. The group moved fast but careful. Elias led with the commander at his side. Vera stayed close to the human, her small steps matching his longer ones. The soldiers spread out in a loose circle. Their antennae scanned the air for danger. The extraction point waited on the far ridge. A hidden landing pad carved into rock. Mother ships would come soon. They crossed a shallow stream. Water glowed soft from tiny organisms. Elias helped Vera over slippery stones. Her claw gripped his armored hand. For a second she released it quick, but the touch lingered in her mind. Strange, warm, not like the hard shells of her own kind. The commander stopped sudden. He raised one claw. Halt. Vibration. Heavy boots. Many coming from North. Mercs. Elias knelt and scanned the device. Beeped. Low red dots appeared on the screen. Too many for a patrol. A full strike team. They found the trail. We cannot outrun them, Elias said. Not in open ground. They will cut us off before the ridge. The commander clicked sharp. Anger. We fight, then princess must reach the pad. No other choice. Vera looked at Elias, her eyes bright green. What do we do? Elias thought fast. He pointed to a narrow ravine ahead. Steep walls, thick cover. We go there. Use the choke point. Make them pay for every step. By time for your ships. The commander studied the ravine. It would work, but risky. If they flanked, the group would die fast. He nodded. We do it, human. You take point again. They ran for the ravine. Elias pushed hard. Pain flared in his wounded side. He ignored it. The group reached the narrowest part. Walls rose high on both sides. Only room for 3 abreast. Perfect kill zone. The soldiers took positions too on high ledges with plasma rifles. The rest formed a line across the mouth. Elias crouched behind a fallen log. Vera knelt beside him. She held a small ceremonial blade pulled from her jewelry. It looked delicate, but the edge gleamed sharp. You should stay back, Elias said. This will get bad. I stay, she answered. I will not hide while others bleed for me. He looked at her long, then nodded. Fair enough. The mercs appeared, first scouts in light armor, then more heavy troops with railguns and grenade launchers. They wore mismatched plates, black, red, and silver colors of a splinter faction, not coalition, not Kelteran, something older, something hungry. The commander hissed low, ancient empire dogs. They want the princess for leverage against the queen. Elias checked his rail rifle ammo low, but enough. He set it to burst mode ready. The mercs advanced slow. They scanned the ravine, saw the defenders. A tall merc in command armor laughed loud. One. Human and bugs, you think this stops us? Elias answered calm. Try us. The fight started fast. Mercs opened fire. Rail rounds cracked against stone. Plasma bolts lit the air. Green and white Kelteran soldiers answered. Bioplasma lanced out in bright arcs. 2 mercs dropped, smoking. The rest dove for cover. Elias fired short bursts. Heads popped up, then vanished behind rocks. He moved low, stayed unpredictable. A merc grenade sailed over the log. Elias grabbed it and threw it back hard. It exploded in the enemy line. Screams followed. Vera watched him fight. She saw how he never wasted shots, how he protected the line, how he checked her position every few seconds between kills. A merc broke through the side. He charged straight at Vera. Blade raised. Elias saw him coming. He lunged forward, tackled the merc to the ground. They rolled. Armor clashed. The merc was bigger, stronger. He pinned Elias and raised the blade high. Vera moved without thought. She drove her small blade into the mark's neck joint. It sank deep. The merc gurgled and fell. Elias pushed the body off. He looked at Vera. Blood on her claw, her eyes wide but steady. Thanks, he said. She nodded once. The mercs pressed harder. They threw more grenades. Smoke filled the ravine. Kelteran soldiers fell. One screamed as plasma burned through his carapace. Another lost a leg. The line thinned. Elias stood up. He fired until the rifle clicked empty. He dropped it and pulled the machete. The monomolecular edge sang as he charged forward. He cut through one merc, then another. Blood sprayed across his armor. He moved like a storm. No fear, no hesitation. The commander fought beside him. Plasma and blade together. They pushed the mercs back step by bloody step. Vera stayed in the fight. She used her blade when enemies got close. She moved fast, light on her feet. She saved a wounded soldier by pulling him behind cover. The battle turned chaotic. Smoke and screams and flashing lights. Elias lost count of the bodies. He bled from new cuts. His left arm hung numb, yet he kept going. Then the merc commander appeared, big in heavy-powered armor. He carried a chain blade that roared loud. He pointed at Vera. There she is. Take her alive. Kill the rest. Merc surged forward. Elias stepped in front. He blocked the path. His machete met the chain blade. Sparks flew. The impact jarred his bones. He held. You won her, Elias growled. Come through me. The commander laughed. One human, you think you can stop us? Elias grinned through the cracked visor. Buddy, you have clearly never met one of us before. He fought dirty. He used the ravine walls for leverage. He ducked under swings. He sliced at joints and weak points. The commander roared and swung wild. Elias dodged and countered. The machete bit deep into armor plating. Vera watched in, or the human refused to fall. He bled. He limped. He hurt, yet he stood between her and death. The merc commander raised his blade for a final blow. Elias triggered every remaining explosive on his belt. Small charges popped across his harness. He rolled away. The blasts ripped through the merc line. The commander staggered forward. Armor cracked open. Elias stood one last time. He drove the machete through the commander's chest. The big merc fell silent. The remaining mercs broke. They ran back into the jungle. Kelteran dropships appeared overhead. Engines roared loud. They landed. Fast warriors poured out. Royal Guard in gold and black. The fight ended quick. The mercs who stayed died fast. Vera ran to Elias. He sat against the ravine wall, breathing hard. Blood pooled under him. She knelt beside him. You live. Barely, he said. Job done now. She touched his cracked visor. Gentle, you saved me many times. Elias looked up at the sky. Ships hovered. Kelteran banners fluttered. You are safe. That is what matters. The Royal Guard approached. They lifted Elias careful. They carried him to a shuttle. Vera walked beside the stretcher. Her claw rested on his arm. The commander followed. He looked at the human with new eyes. Respect, deep respect. The shuttle lifted off the jungle, fell away. Below, the ruins smoked in the distance. The beacon still transmitted strong and steady, announcing that humans had come and would not leave easy. Elias closed his eyes for the first time in days. He felt the princess' hand still there, warm, steady. Something new grew in the silence between enemy and ally, between human and Kelteran. Something stronger than war, something earned in blood and fire. The shuttle climbed fast through thick clouds. Engines roared steady as they broke into clear sky. Kelteran flagship waited in high orbit. A massive vessel shaped like a living hive. Black and gold plates gleamed under starlight. The shuttle docked smooth. Royal Guard carried Elias on a stretcher down wide corridors. Vera walked beside him. Her claw rested light on the edge of the frame. She never looked away. The audience chamber opened before them, huge round. Room-high ceiling curved like a dome, thin pillars of polished stone rose from floor to roof. Hundreds of Kelteran nobles stood in silent rows, their carapaces shone in every shade of green and blue, gold threads wove through mandibles and arms. Queen Srathkael Laressa sat on a raised throne, her body larger than any other, deep emerald shell marked with ancient patterns, her eyes fixed on the group as they entered. The guard set the stretcher down. Gentle Elias tried to stand. Pain shot through his body. He stayed on one knee. Blood still leaked slow from sealed wounds. Medical foam held but barely. Vera stepped forward. She placed herself between her mother and the human. Queen Lyressa spoke first. Her voice carried deep harmonic tones that vibrated the air. Why is the Reaver here, my daughter? Why do you shield him? Vera raised her head high. She spoke clear and strong. Mother, this human did not take me. He saved me. The pod opened in the ruin. He found me first. He lowered his weapon. He spoke peace. When your warriors came, he stood empty-handed. When the ruin fell, he led us through dark tunnels. He took plasma burns meant for me. He fought mercs alone so I could live. He collapsed the cavern on their leader with his last strength. My life belongs to him. Now I invoke the ancient debt right. Gasps rippled through the chamber. Nobles clicked mandibles in shock. Whispers spread fast. Debt right had not been given to an outsider in 3,000 years. It meant the princess owed her life to this being. She would protect him as he protected her until the debt was repaid or cancelled by blood. Queen Lyressa studied Elias long moments. She rose from the throne, slow and graceful. She walked down the steps. Each footfall echoed. Soft. A shadow fell over the human. She stopped close enough for him to smell the faint spice of royal pheromones. She looked down at the battered marine armor, cracked and scorched, blood crusted on grey plates, visor shattered in one corner. Yet he met her gaze steady. No fear showed, only quiet resolve. She spoke direct. Why human? Why risk everything for my daughter? You owe us nothing. Your people call us enemies. You could have left her to die and claimed the ruin for your coalition. Elias took a slow breath. The translator hummed rough in his helmet. It began as a simple mission. I was supposed to plant a beacon and leave. Then I found your daughter. He paused. His voice stayed calm. Some things matter more than orders. She was alone, scared, young. I could not walk away. We do not leave kids behind, not ever. The queen tilted her head and Tenny moved slow. She studied his face through the broken visor. Something shifted in her compound. Eyes not anger, not pity, understanding. Perhaps. She turned to the court. This human stands before us bleeding from wounds taken in defense of our bloodline. He asks nothing, he demands nothing. He simply acts. My daughter invokes debt right. I honor it. Elias Kane of the Terran Coalition, you are granted guest right on Keltara Prime. Safe passage to your space whenever you choose. No hive will harm you. No warrior will raise claw against you. The nobles bowed low. Mandibles clicked in formal acceptance. The sound filled the chamber like gentle rain. Vera stepped closer to Elias. She touched his shoulder light. You are safe now. Elias nodded once. Thanks, your majesty. Medical drones floated in. They scanned his wounds. Injected stabilizers lifted him careful onto a hover stretcher. Vera walked with them down a side corridor. Wide and quiet walls glowed soft. Orange light came from within the stone itself. They reached a medical bay. Clean white room. Soft beds lined one wall. Machines hummed low. Elias lay down. The drones worked fast. Cut away damaged armor. Cleaned cuts. Sealed flesh with biogel. Pain faded slow. He closed his eyes for a moment. First real rest in days. Vera sat on a low stool beside the bed. She watched the machines work. Her mandibles stayed calm. Now no fear left. You could have left me many times, she said, soft tones. Elias opened his eyes. He looked at her. Yeah, but then I would not have been able to look at myself in the mirror. She clicked. Quiet amusement. Mirror, a human thing. He gave a small smile. Something like that. Silence settled. Comfortable. The machines beeped. Steady. Vera spoke again. When you are healed, will you go back to your people? Elias thought about it. Maybe, or maybe not right away. Coalition will want reports. Lots of questions. Maybe I stay a while. See your world up close. Vera and Tenny perked. You would like that? Might, he answered. Never been a guest on a hive world. Could be interesting. She leaned closer. I will show you our gardens, our hives, our history. You save me. I will make sure you see beauty, not just war. Elias nodded. Sounds good. The queen entered quiet. She stood at the door, watched her daughter, and the human, no anger, showed only calm acceptance. She spoke soft. Vera, he will need rest. We speak more tomorrow. Vera rose. Yes, mother. The queen looked at Elias one last time. Human, you have my thanks and my respect. Few outsiders earn either. She left quiet. The door slid shut. Vera lingered a moment. She touched his hand, once light claw on rough skin. Thank you, Elias Kane. He squeezed back. Gentle. No problem, kid. She smiled. Small mandibles curved up. Then she followed her mother out. Elias lay back. The bay lights dimmed. Slow sleep pulled at him deep and dreamless. For the first time in years, he felt no mission pressing, no orders waiting, just quiet and the strange new feeling of belonging somewhere he never expected. Far below, on the jungle floor, the coalition beacon still blinked. Steady pulse of light cutting through vines and mist. It sent its signal to the stars. Simple message. Survey complete. Human presence confirmed. The galaxy listened, and somewhere in the dark new stories began stories of a lone marine who walked into enemy fire for a princess he did not know, stories of debt right given across species line, stories of respect earned in blood and stubborn will. Humanity had come to Kaltara, and the hives would never forget.